Best in Blue.
Connecting you, the listener, to the everyday inner workings of the Memphis Police Department.
Best in Blue on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Hey, I'm DC, your host of Best in Blue, here on the KUDZUKIAN Network. Best in Blue is a collaborative effort formed in partnership with the Memphis Police Department and the KUDZUKIAN Network to bring you a transparent view of the inner workings of the Memphis Police Department and the fine officers who go out every day protecting and serving without fear or favor. The information you'll get here on Best in Blue is the latest, and it is unfiltered. Speaking of the latest information on Best in Blue, today we're going to visit with Colonel Joe Oakley and Lieutenant Colonel Debbie Jackson of the Mount Moriah Precinct. They are with us today in the studio, so get ready to take excellent notes. We'll be right back after the break here on the Best in Blue.
Best in Blue. Best in Blue.
That means we go to the schools, we go to the churches, we do all types of programs to try to build the relationship between law enforcement and the community.
Best in Blue on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
KUDZUKIAN.
We're back with you right here on the Best in Blue, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. I am DC, and as promised, we have Colonel Joe Oakley and Lieutenant Colonel Debbie Jackson in the studio with us. Welcome to the Best in Blue to both of you all.
Well, thank you, DC. We appreciate you inviting us today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Great. Let's get right into it. Now, you two have been a part of the Memphis Police Department for more than a few days, I think. You had a few years there, right, Colonel Oakley? How long have you been on the force?
A little over 30 years.
Oh, wow. 30 years. So you started as patrolman. What patrolman how did you get your journey started?
Well, patrolman, then the sergeant, then lieutenant, major, lieutenant colonel, then colonel.
Oh, wow. Lieutenant Colonel Jackson?
Yes, I started as a police service technician. That's a PST. And I started there and moved up the ranks to the sergeant, lieutenant, major, and now lieutenant colonel.
So let's talk about where you all are at right now in terms of your leadership. Mount Moriah, which is a very storied precinct, no doubt, right?
Right.
Pretty large precinct. So let's talk a little bit about the Mount Moriah precinct and the men and women that make up that effort that you all are leading in our community.
Mount Moriah is a pretty adventurous precinct, but our police officers and our supervisors work very hard every day. In fact, we have decreased our crime by almost 13% this year, coming off of a 6.5% decrease in 2018. So it's kudos to the men in blue and the women in blue at Mount Moriah Station.
13%?
Right.
That's amazing. And so it was, you said 6% last year, correct?
Right, 6.5%.
Wow. So Lieutenant Jackson and Lieutenant Colonel Jackson, I know a lot of this is your leadership too, right?
You're right. A lot of it is.
Wow. And so the men and women out there, let's talk about the boundaries of Mount Moriah. Where do they extend, Colonel? What do you have?
Okay, to the north is Park Avenue, and to the south is Winchester. To the west is Prescott, and to the east is Kirby Parkway, and we encompass 25 square miles and around 75,000 residents that live within the precinct boundaries.
25 square miles.
Right.
You know, I tell people all the time, the city of Memphis is a pretty large piece of real estate. We're larger than New York and a lot of other major cities. I think we're about 324 square miles.
Right.
And you got 25 of that. And so I guess when we get all of our precincts together, that's a lot of area. Is it evenly divided in terms of residents? Like you got 75,000. So let's just say the Appling Farmers, would they have something similar to that number as well?
Yes, the precincts are equal as close as they can.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, about most precincts have the same amount of square miles. You mentioned Appling Farms. It is a lot bigger because it stretches out to Fayette County.
Now, in terms of the precinct at Mount Moriah where you all lead, how many officers are your complement makeup, Lieutenant Colonel?
We have 122 police officers, officers on the street. We have, I have a total of 8 sergeants, and also that's in my bureau, that's in my GIB.
Sure.
And we have 4 officers who complement those sergeants. My lieutenants, I have 12 lieutenants, and they're spread out on their shifts, and I have 2 majors, a a Charlie shift major, which is 2 to 10, and then I have an Alpha shift major. He comes in at 11:30 to 7:30.
That's a lot of compliment. And I imagine you could always use some more, though, right, Colonel?
Always.
You're listening to the Best in Blue right here on the KUDZUKIAN Network. And I'm very familiar with the Mount Moriah area. For years it's been known as an area, I guess, back in the day where a lot of car lots were out there. So in terms of the diversity of residential to businesses, Colonel, what are you looking at? I mean, you've got quite a few businesses. I mean, I guess you would have some business been around quite a few years, right?
Yes, we do. We have several car lots up and down Mount Moriah, across from the precinct and down the street. We also have around 45 apartment complexes within the boundaries and a lot of residential area. And our population is very diverse, but we have a large Hispanic population within our boundaries, and we have a lot of community outreach for our Hispanics that I think are unique to our precinct.
We talked a little bit about that offline, and you were saying that your precinct probably has the largest community of, I guess, Latinx residents in our city. And so I would imagine that you have probably one of the largest complements of officers who are bilingual.
Right, we do. We have several officers that do speak Spanish, and they're assigned to each of the shifts. So in case we need them, they're readily available.
So, Lieutenant Colonel Jackson, one of those things that we like to touch on is collaboration. And I know there's a lot of businesses that make up your precinct area out there. So when I was talking to Colonel a little bit ago, you got 45 apartment complexes? Is that the norm? Would you say that's the norm in terms of when you look around the entire city? That sounds like quite a few.
It is quite a few. There are some precincts that have more.
More than 45?
Well, yes, you can have a lot of apartment complexes, and we do have, and we try to reach out to them. We have our apartment managers meeting where we bring in the apartment managers, and that's how we actually get our information out to them. And we try to meet with them once a month so that we can deal with any issues that they may have.
And with these types of meetings, just making sure that the residents are pretty up to speed on what's going on. I know matter of fact, I had a buddy that lived out in that area before, and they actually liked the area. There was a lot of apartments out there, and then there's some, I think, that have had some challenges as well. Have they not, Colonel?
Yes, they do. Recently, the tornado struck the Cottonwood Apartments, and it rendered over half of the buildings with work to do. So we do have several residents that are staying in there right now because there was not that much damage on some of the buildings, but it was quite the effort with all departments in the city and the state to assist those that were in need at that time.
So are they still on the ground out there now at this time? Are efforts still underway to, I would imagine that the utilities are back running, but probably not in that area though, correct?
Well, I think we have the utilities back up, and in the apartment complex, it's restoration now with the buildings that were damaged. Wow.
So, man, I mean, we heard, a lot of us in the city heard about the devastation. I woke up one morning, somebody called me from Dallas and said, I heard y'all had a tornado. I said, we didn't have a tornado in Memphis. Little did I know, I mean, we did actually have one. Did they say what category it was that touched down?
We did. We had an EF1 tornado.
EF1 in a community like that, that's really highly populated, correct?
Correct.
And so your business community, Lieutenant Colonel Jackson, and also your clergy, I imagine, kind of surrounded that area to some respect and actually helped those residents find places to stay? Yes, they did.
They really came forward and assisted with the needs of the community as far as helping to get housing for several other people, as well as make sure that they had food and just shelter. So, yes, they stepped up.
Community did step up. That's one thing about Memphis that we really love about our city. We are one heck of a giving town, Colonel. You know that?
Yes.
We like to give.
We do.
We do like to give. So I'll tell you what, let's put a pin right there. We'll be right back with more on the Best in Blue. We've got Lieutenant Colonel Debbie Jackson and Colonel Joe Oakley right here with us today.
Best in Blue.
Riffin' on jazz.
When two friends get together to kick it
about jazz, it's called Riffin' on Jazz.
Catch us riffing on jazz every week right here on your favorite broadcast or podcast platforms.
Riffin' on jazz on the KUDZUKIAN Network. KUDZUKIAN!
And we're back with the Best in Blue right here on the KUDZUKIAN Network, and we're talking to Colonel Joe Oakley, who manages the Mount Moriah Station Precinct, along with his Lieutenant Colonel Debbie Jackson. It's always good to have the Best in Blue right here on the Best in Blue. So again, welcome to the program. But Colonel Oakley, I want to make sure we jump in here and we talk about some of those things that kind of almost make your job a little easier, and that's always community partnerships or collaborations. What are some of those special collaborations that you're working on right now, or you've already had opportunity to work with folks that are helping you do your job and provide the citizens of the city of Memphis with even better service? Right.
Well, we have a great partnership with our clergy, our neighborhood churches within Mount Moriah Station. We have a monthly meeting. It's the second Wednesday at 10 o'clock, and we meet there, and I go over crime data, specific needs for our churches, and we allow our clergy to talk about the needs they may have or their concerns. Like, for instance, last month we had an active shooter training tabletop discussion with our clergy members and some of our high school principals. So it was a very, very good meeting, a lot of information that was put out, and we're very happy to do that.
Well, Colonel, when you talk about having meetings like active shooter, maybe some of the internet crime meetings like that, do you do those at the station, or do you go like to some of those community areas, like maybe a community center, or to some of the churches?
Well, the clergy meetings are at the precinct.
Okay.
But we do go out into the community, like at our community centers and other churches, when our neighborhood watch groups have meetings at those locations. And that is our other big support system that the Lieutenant Colonel and I have, is our neighborhood watch groups. We have that meeting. It's the second Tuesday every month at 6 o'clock. And we have anywhere from 40 to 80 participants every month. And it's very exciting to see the support that we have throughout our precinct and our neighborhood watch groups.
So your neighborhood watch groups, you're having anywhere from 40 to, that's quite a few folks out there.
It is.
And I guess what that does, Lieutenant Colonel Jackson, is that tells you that people are really interested in making sure that their communities are safe, their neighborhoods are walkable, and that it's just one of those things about the city of Memphis we like to pull through. I like to tell people all the time, and support ourselves as neighbors, right?
And that's correct. That's correct.
Well, one of those things I saw that you all have done is that park, walk, and talk. Tell our listeners about the Park, Walk, and Talk and exactly what that is.
Okay, that's a scheduled event that the precinct has. And what we do, we invite our business leaders, our community stakeholders, such as like code enforcement. We take our prosecutor, ambassadors for the precinct. We take our clergy members, and we actually go out to a location. We park, and we do exactly what it says. We get out and we walk. We want to address the business community as well as the neighborhood. We go into the areas that may need our attention. They may have issues with like blight, things of that nature. So we come in and we address any issues that they may have. We invite them to our meetings, our monthly meetings, so that they can get additional assistance. We offer resources to them so that they're able to know who to call on any given situation. And we want to bring a sense of togetherness to let them know that even though we're a police agency, we still need the community, and we work together to make things better.
You're listening to the Best in Blue right here on the KUDZUKIAN Network. I like the way you said that, Lieutenant Colonel. You're a police agency, but we want to work together. It's a collaboration, because without citizen input, there's a lot of investigations that can't be solved, right, Colonel? I mean, you just can't get them solved unless somebody says, "Look, I saw something," right?
Right.
I want to be involved with something. How do you help spur that with this park, walk, talk piece, Colonel?
Well, when we have our meetings, we always say, if you see something, say something.
Yes,
and we cannot do it without our community. They're our eyes and ears, and we want to encourage that. If you see something, say something. Call us at the precinct. Call Crime Stoppers. Whatever it takes to get the job done, that's what we want to do.
And we were talking about earlier again. I want to make sure that folks know that this precinct that you have, this area that you manage, is pretty diverse. But one thing I think you said earlier was that you have a large Latinx Hispanic community. So would you say, in terms of challenges that's one of those areas that you all probably are a little bit different than some of the other areas in the city where you're kind of meeting those challenges, right?
Right. The Lieutenant Colonel and I have had several movie nights. We invite our Hispanic citizens. One we had at the precinct. That was the very first one. We had around 35. And then we had another one at an Hispanic church off of Willow Road. We had about 70 that night. So what we are doing is to build a better relationship between the MPD and the Hispanic community so they can trust us.
Sure.
You know, that was a big thing. I mean, we don't care about your social status or your immigration. We just want you to be a safe citizen and contribute to the city of Memphis.
So, Lieutenant Colonel Jackson, when it comes to our Latinx and our Hispanic communities, have your officers found out that it's a little tough to build that trust because sometimes they just don't know if they can trust?
Yes, that has been an issue. The officers will talk about how the Hispanic population don't trust. But like Colonel Oakley just said, we try to make sure that we instill in our officers so when they go out and they're policing, that they make sure that the Hispanic community knows that we're here to serve them as well. So there has been issues where the Hispanic population has felt not safe,
Sure.
But we're doing everything that we can. We've also had health fairs at our precinct. We're doing all types of outreach to try to reach our citizens, all citizens.
And so the community engagement piece is what I'm hearing from you, Lieutenant Colonel, is one of the direct, I guess, resources that you have to really kind of target a lot of maybe some of those communities that may feel like they are underserved or that they may have some fear about actually accessing the services, right? Is that outreach, that community engagement piece, right?
Yes, that's absolutely right.
Wow. And so, Colonel Oakley, you were talking a moment ago about the decrease in crime. Let's go there. Let's talk about what are some of the things, some of the areas that you all have seen a significant decrease in the Mount Moriah station area. Now, we don't want to jinx anything because we want to make sure that the numbers continue to go down, but we want to make sure that people know that, hey, things are going down in this area, they're going down in this area, and we have some challenges right here. And I don't think that's bad, is it?
No, I think all of our Part 1 crime has decreased. I think.
And explain to me what Part 1 is, because a lot of folks don't know what Part 1 would be.
All right, Part 1 crime is basically every crime from shoplifting to some of the serious crimes like aggravated assault and robbery. So we have had a decrease in our crime, and shoplifting continues citywide to be up, and those are some challenges that we face, and we meet with our business partners to help out. But our robberies, our theft from motor vehicle and ag assaults are down, but we don't want to take that for granted because we know it can go back up. So that's why we partner with our community to get them to help us, like don't leave things in your car at night, things of that nature.
Sure. Well, I'll tell you what, I want to hold it right there. We're going to come right back. We want to get into some of those safety tips. I know you all have been policing for some years, and you've probably seen it all, no doubt at this point, right? And so let's talk about some of those safety tips when we come back, and some things that people should know that maybe they really don't know, right? Right here on the Best in Blue. We'll see you in just a second.
Best in Blue.
Hey, I'm Williams Brack, co-host of Grind Set. The insight you gain from us and our guests will motivate you to take the leap into entrepreneurship. So stay with us. What's your grind set? And if you happen to miss some of our episodes, make sure to check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast provider.
Grind Set on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Hey Memphis, this is Colonel Joe Oakley of the Mount Moriah Station of your Memphis Police Department. And if you want to stay in the know of the amazing work your MPD does every day, then tune into the Best in Blue by downloading the KUDZUKIAN app in the App Store or Google Play.
We're back with the Best in Blue right here on the KUDZUKIAN Network, sitting here with two of the greatest professionals the city of Memphis has ever seen, Colonel Joe Oakley and Lieutenant Colonel Debbie Jackson. We really appreciate the service that you all have rendered to the city and to the citizens. We look forward to another 25 or 30 years out of you. Can we get that right now?
Of course.
I'm looking at Colonel like, wait a minute, hold on. Did you say another 30 days, another 30 years?
You can push me in a wheelchair in 30 more years.
You'll be right here on the job, no doubt about it. We were just talking a little bit about some of those issues that we have in the community. It's just not in Mount Moriah, it's other areas of our city. But, your numbers have significantly come down. I think Mount Moriah was number one in terms of a reduction in crime.
We were last year,
and you're working on it this year's too as well. No doubt.
We are,
and that's community oriented policing is out there. And you're doing a lot of things. What are some of those areas that you still see somewhat of a challenge in that you're working on?
Well, a lot of it is our car break-ins, because we still have citizens that are leaving things in their car at night, and we have groups of people that are walking the streets at night.
Sure.
And they're doing something called bopping, and that's where they go up and down streets in apartment complexes, and they pull on doorknobs to see if the door is left unlocked.
That's bopping.
Bopping.
Wow. Okay. No, please continue.
So then they'll go in and steal whatever's in the car. And we have a lot of citizens that have video cameras, home security, and we see that. We know firsthand what they're doing. And we also have an issue not only at Mount Moriah but all over the city where people are leaving guns in their cars at night or at a shopping center. And when those guns are in the cars and they're stolen, that creates threat to all of us, because those guns that are stolen from cars are used in robberies, carjacking, shootings, and other things. So that is a big deal for us, that we want to ensure that people do not leave their guns in their cars unattended.
Lieutenant Colonel Jackson, I want to make sure that, and I want to bring you into this thing because I know you're sitting right there as well in the leadership chair over there. What can citizens do, I guess, a little bit more proactively, other than, I want to carry my weapon because I'm afraid, so I want to keep it in my car. How do you juxtapose that? So what do we do?
Well, like Colonel Oakley just said, it's just really not a good idea to keep your weapon in your car. Yeah, okay. There's really no compromise on that one. We want to make sure that our weapons are secured in our homes. You will have gun owners that have a permit and they're going to have their weapons, but leaving them in a car is it's not a good idea.
Wow, that's amazing. Just not a good idea. And so some of the other challenges that we see around the city, sometimes it's getting colder now, right, Colonel?
It is.
So with that, I often, I got a garage on mine, but some people, they're getting ready to go to work, go take kids to school, they're warming a car up.
They are, and we have groups of people that are going all over the city, and they see a steamer. That's what is called, is where you're
killing me on these names here. Now, they went from bopping to steamers now.
Right, so steamer is a car that's running. You see the exhaust steam, and if it's unlocked and the key's in the ignition, they're going to get in and drive off. And those are also used in other crimes like robberies, drive-by shootings, things of that nature. Sure. So we encourage people, do not leave your cars left running unattended. And please don't leave a child in the car running unattended.
Wow. You're listening to the Best in Blue right here on the KUDZUKIAN Network. And we must reemphasize that. We know it's cool, we know it's cold, and it's going to get colder. Don't leave your car running, but especially don't leave a child or an adult or not an adult, a person in the car who can't fend for themselves, right?
Right.
It just makes no sense. Let's do a little bit of bragging. Lieutenant Colonel Jackson, I know you got some staff and you all are hitting a lot of pretty good numbers in terms of the reduction of crime. What are some things that you are getting exactly right and some of your staff that's getting really, really right out there in the Mount Moriah area?
Well, first of all, we have some great leaders at Mount Moriah Station. They're dedicated to serving the citizens of Memphis. That is their goal, to come in daily, and they love their job. So that makes half of the work already done when you know that they're happy and they want to work for the citizens. That's why we had the 6.5% crime reduction last year, and we're working hard and steady to try to keep our numbers down.
I'm going to talk to the mayor and the director. Maybe we can get them to send some cake or some dinners or something, because that's saying something. That means that you're being really, really active out there, and the community's working with you.
Oh, they are. They, like the lieutenant colonel said, our officers are happy, and a lot of it is because our neighbors are spoiling our officers because they bring food almost every day. They bring cake, chicken, homemade pies. It's amazing. I've never seen a precinct with this much community support.
You don't want to go anywhere. So now you got officers out there, Mount Moriah. No, I don't want to go anywhere. I want to stay right there.
Exactly.
And so you got all of this community support, which is fantastic. So I'm assuming that you do encourage the residents to stop by. Come on by, drop in on us. Whatever. Come on by and see what we're doing, right?
Yes, we do.
Wow. So, Lieutenant Colonel Jackson, one of those things that we often like to do on this program is that there are a lot of things I think that the citizens want to hear from leadership in terms of the police department, but there's some of those special things out there I think that maybe they need to be reminded of. I know one thing is definitely we're talking about the guns and cars, but also not the steamers, not leaving your car running. But what are some of those other things out there that folks need to kind of keep in mind in terms of a safety tip?
Those are the main ones that we need to deal with, the guns in the cars. Also now at Mount Moriah, we have a juvenile court liaison. So that's going to help us as well.
Oh, wow.
She'll come in and she'll assist with the problems that we have with our juvenile that come in. We have a problem with recidivism,
Sure.
So we'll have a person to come in that actually try to meet with these juveniles and their parents when they come in and try to get resources at their fingertips to try to help those juveniles.
Almost like a diversion from necessarily going downtown to the court. You've got somebody who's in the station right there, right, that can assist with, even if it's just assessment, right, Colonel?
Right. When we have a troubled youth that's been arrested, the community liaison from the juvenile court will work with the family to keep this young man or woman out of trouble in the future. I think it's a great idea, and we look forward to it being very successful.
Some of those other thoughts you got on your mind, I know as a leader of this particular area of town, what are some of those other things you like to remind our citizens that, hey, let's just stay on our awareness about this thing? And I think we got holidays coming up too as well, right?
We do. We're going to have our Christmas trees put in the front window, and people are going to see all the presents. So we don't want to advertise that we have things in our homes. We want to lock our cars, lock our homes at night, get an alarm system if you can, and be a nosy neighbor. That's the best crime deterrent anywhere, is be a nosy neighbor. Have your neighbors watch over your stuff and you watch over theirs. And if something is not right, then call the police immediately.
I like the way you ended that, Colonel. If something's not right, call the police immediately. And I'm sure you agree with that, Lieutenant Colonel Jackson, because it all comes down to that nosy neighbor piece, being a part of the community, being a part of a bigger body, right?
It does, yes. Our citizens are really a very good crime fighting tool. Just them being nosy, looking, seeing, and contacting us when they see something that's not right.
I like the way she said that, Colonel. They're a good crime fighting tool.
They are.
And you don't have to pay for that. That's absolutely free, right?
Oh, you're right about that. And I would be amiss if I didn't recognize my lieutenant colonel. She's the best lieutenant colonel, I think, at any precinct. And we have the hardest working men and women of the MPD at Mount Moriah Station.
Wow. And on that note, I tell you what, you tell those young folks out there that's working every day, we know they're out there doing their thing and they're making us safe and they're protecting us, right? And that we appreciate them. And we'll see them real soon. We'll come out there and visit you all one day pretty soon. What do you think about that?
We look forward to it.
All right. Hey, that's what we got right here on the Best in Blue today. We'll be right back with some more closing thoughts.
Best in Blue.
Keeping it real, right, and funky.
Is this an opportunity that we can seize and express interest from the governor and the state to act on the behalf of young people in Shelby County? There are stories that we don't want to tell because they will piss some folks off, make some folk mad.
Funky politics on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
KUDZUKIAN.
As a host of Best in Blue, I get to talk to the director and a multitude of Memphis Police Department leaders and officers about the work of our police department. I can't think of an agency anywhere in the country that does all the work our MPD does, and they should be applauded for their effort. Our city is filled with a diversity of people of all shapes, colors, and states of being. And Mount Moriah Precinct, it's an area that is no exception to that fact, right? It's a complete melting pot of Memphis, and we should embrace and relish in our communities of diversity. So let's enjoy and share our Memphis. Let's also keep in mind our neighborhoods, our places to live, walk, ride, fellowship, and enjoy each other. It's not a place for violent crime, so pitch in and contribute to the well-being of our city and community. I'm DC, and this is the Best in Blue on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
KUDZUKIAN Network.